Hey everyone, it's Lisa from Primitive Gatherings, and today I get to talk about the 12th quilt in the series of honoring my mother and her sister. So my mom is one of 10 girls in the family, and then there's grandma, so she was number 11, so I was missing one, so I thought I would honor my dad's sister's daughter, who is Cousin Mary. And I'll leave the little story about Cousin Mary on the back of the pattern so you can read more about Cousin Mary there. I gotta let you have a little bit of fun with that. All right, so this is Cousin Mary's quilt. It is 18 by 18. And yes, these are not Lisa Bongean colors, right? But Mary loves magenta and orange. So I had to tribute her with the colors of the quilt in this one. I don't know about the size of these blocks. Mary is one of them that anything less than a fat quarter she throws out. So she's not a scrap person. She doesn't probably like too small of pieces, but you know, she is definitely a character. All right, so we do have a kit available for this in the colors that we are showing here today to honor Mary and her colorway, which is a very popular color in the modern world right now, pink and orange together. But so we will have a kit available. Look for that on our website. And here is the pattern. It's a working copy because we're doing this a little early because I'm going on a trip to France. All right, so you got to get your kit, or it's just 2 fat quarters, a yard of the pink, and then the half square triangle paper. So this is the half square triangle paper that we are going to use. I'm not using the charms because I need this configuration this way. So this is what the paper looks like in full. And all I'm going to do is trim just outside of these solid lines. So it's going to look like this when I am done trimming. All right, so you want just those outer solid lines of those long rectangles. And you need 1 full sheet, and then you only need 4 of another sheet. So here is the leftovers. Now this I'm just going to put right in my package, and those will still be good for something else. So this is what I need to do the half square triangles on this quilt. Okay, so I thought for a demo today that it's been a while since I've done some half square triangles on camera. So I have my 2 fabrics here that are needed in the size that it tells me to cut it in the pattern. And I think I might give this away to somebody who purchases this kit so you won't have to stitch them. And then I'm going to lay out my papers on here. All right, so I have, maybe it goes the other way. No, it goes this way. All right. Okay. So I got those there, and they just fit, barely. So the salvage is there. I don't like to go too deep into that salvage, but I will put these on and I will begin sewing. Now we want right sides together. So I have 2 solid fabrics here, so I can't go wrong. The only thing I want to make sure is that the light is on top, so the paper goes onto the light first. So then I'm just going to line those up there. I'm going to stick a little pin in one of them here. Make sure I got that on there. That's all good. I'm going to stick 1 little pin in there. And then after I stitch the first row, I can take that pin out because then nothing will move. So I did starch my fabrics with the Heavy Finish Faultless. This is my favorite to use. It is the cheapest. I have an a Walmart subscription for it. I get it every 2 weeks. So it just comes delivered right to my house. And now I have a nice supply of it because I would go to the store and then I would strike out. And I don't like going to the store and striking out. So by having a subscription of 12 cans every 2 weeks, I have a nice supply. Okay, all right, so I have my machine here. I am sewing on the BO8 straight stitch machine. I am going to shorten my stitch length from half of what I usually stitch at. So I'm going to stitch at about a smidge above 1 is where I'm going to land. And okay, I have this one here. There's my second one. I lowered my stitch length. I have my knee lift, so I'm going to just start stitching with this, and then I will stitch right here. So I'm going to look here. I want you to know that I'm going to stitch on all of these dashed lines going across, not the solid ones. Those are the cut lines, so that's where the scissors is. So I'm just going to stitch on all the dashed lines. Right sides together, make sure I'm covered with the fabrics. I am, so I'm going to slide that under and just start stitching. So I have a knee lift and I have a thread cutter on my pedal. So some of you might have the thread cutter on your machine. You can use it that way, but you'll never see me do this in between every time I do a stitched line. And this helps with being accurate and efficient at the same time. All right, so I'm going to stitch this whole thing. Add this one right to it so I can just continue stitching. Okay, so now that we got everything stitched, so you can see how it looks on the back side, and here's that little jog that every time where my two papers met, I had to kind of squish over a little bit on those. Okay, so here we have everything stitched, and just as a reminder, going back over, all the directions for the triangle paper are right here on this cover page. So you're going to cut apart your sections according to the pattern. You're going to layer your two fabrics right sides together with the light on top. You're going to shorten your stitch length to about half of what you normally stitch at, and that's so the paper perfs off easily, so you're not struggling to pull it off. And then we're going to cut it apart on all the solid lines. That's the next step. And then we're going to press to the dark. On this one will be the orange, and then I'm going to teach you how to remove the papers, and it tells you here that you remove it from pulling from the center, not the ends, and then you can cut off the dog ears if you wish, and then your half square triangles are ready to piece into your pattern. So this is technically not paper piecing, it's using the triangle paper to get the triangles perfect, and then we remove the paper and then we sew them into our blocks just like our other fabrics. We don't, paper piecing is where you sew everything to a foundation, and then when the block is done you have to tear off all the paper. That is not the same thing, okay? All right, so now we're going to cut these apart, and I promise I won't cut them all apart. I will just give you a good example. Hopefully I'm good over the overhead. Kaylee will check that. She said right here somewhere is in the middle.
Don't lean too far.
Don't lean too far. Okay, so I'm going to make sure my glasses are newly updated so I can see these lines. And so you want to cut away right on top of that line, like so. So you shouldn't see any black line at all. But so if you do, just give it a little shave, and that should do it. So I'm going to do all of the straight lines first, like so. And there's nothing wrong with doing the whole perimeter as well, which is usually probably what I do, is I do like the whole perimeter. So you just keep cutting like that. So I have one trimmed here, and then I would move to a little bit smaller ruler, which is right here, my favorite one. So now I'm going to cut on my solid lines like so. And these lines are really, really faint, and that is for a reason. So they're really thin, so we can keep these triangles as accurate as possible. So I'm trying not to lean over, but I gotta see, so I'm kind of leaning back here a little bit. So that's just for the camera. Not normally we would go upright totally. Okay, so there's all those. So now move them apart a little bit, turn them. Now I'm going to cut right down the middle of them. The middle line is not as important as the outside lines. Those are determine the size of your triangles. The middle one is just cutting the two apart. So that one is just the seam allowance. Trying to cut under the camera. Did I do a good job? Mm-hmm. All right. So you do that for this whole strip set there, like I did. I'm shutting my drawer here. Okay, so let me just pull this over, and then I'm going to take all of these, and I would, like I said, they would all be cut out. All the same way, and then when I get to the iron, I flip them so the dark side is up. Grab my iron. This is a Laura Star, so we need to purge it, get all the steam out of the line. All right, so now I'm going to pick them up, and then I kind of chain press them. Maybe I come over here a little bit more, huh? I usually have a towel on my mat. So you get the hang of it after a while. If you have a clapper, that'll work too nicely. You can set that on after you press a row of them. These will finish 1/2 inch. So they're really still 1 inch right now, so they're really not that bad. The magic happens after you stitch them into the blocks and you press, then they become 1/2 inch. All right, so it looks like I got all of them there. So put a towel on here, that helps with the dragging. All right, now I just gather them all up in my hand, like so, and then I flip them over, and then I start peeling. So right here, I hold right near the stitches, and then I pull right up from the middle and pull the paper away. These fingernails are actually tools. Oh, this one there we go. You get a little rhythm going. Clean my house up. All right, so you get the idea on how the paper comes off. So then, once we have all of our triangles stitched, cut apart, paper pulled off, then we can start building the blocks or the borders. So when we do that, we will be stitching these together like so for the borders. Okay. So we'll be stitching together into rows like that for the borders, and you will just put these right sides together. And if you want to clip off your dog ears, you can. I'll admit sometimes I do not. And I just sew right over the top of that, and I'll sew all those together. But when you're stitching these together for your borders, make sure that your 1/4 inch is accurate. Or you may have to fudge a little bit when you're putting your quilt together. All right, so, and I just want to point out that we try to do everything so perfect, but when it's mini, everything is exaggerated. So if you're off a smidge, you'll see it. But in the whole scheme of things, you know, if anybody's sitting there looking for your mistakes or looking for where you lopped off a point or something like that, I noticed like there's this one triangle right here. Like this one is a little smaller for some reason in here. You see it? So it just might have been like I might have slipped a little bit when I was cutting. So sometimes I like to make a few extra, and just in case I stitch improperly or I cut a little bit wrong. But for the most part, when you look at it from here, it's absolutely fabulous. So what I guess I'm saying is just give yourself a little grace when you work with minis, that it's not going to be absolutely perfect. If you want it to be, go ahead, knock yourself out, make sure it is. But I let a little bit of that slide on minis, as well as pretty much everything now. After you've stitched for 30 years, I don't really care if I lop off a point. So that is just how things are right now. All right, so I will finish cutting these all apart, and some lucky person is going to get all of these triangles already stitched for them. So thank you for joining me here today for our mini, and I will be announcing a new mini series soon, just as soon as we come up with maybe a plan. All right, so we'll be off for about 2 months, and then we'll be back with the minis again. Thank you very much for joining us here at Primitive Gatherings, where every stitch tells a story.